there's one very well-established part of our political heritage, which always happens, and that is Eurosceptic noises from the Conservative Party immediately before a European election. Malcolm has taken some of my thunder, but I should disclose, in addition to what Malcolm said, that I was a member of the Conservative Party for over 25 years, and I even stood as a Conservative for the House of Commons when I was 24. But the record of the Conservative Party on European integration is appalling. They got us into the common market in the first place, passed the Single European Act in 1986, signed the Maastricht Treaty in 1992, and joined the exchange rate mechanism with dire consequences for mortgage holders and businesses, with the full intention of joining the euro. And now David Cameron has told his MPs and candidates not to mention the EU. Cameron's Conservatives' policy on the EU can be summarised as don't ask, don't tell. As we all know, we are now in an economic crisis, and Cameron's response to the economic crisis has been to bring back Kenneth Clarke into a very high economic position. Now, Kenneth Clarke may or may not be an affable person to meet, but I have to say, with as much authority as I can muster, that the views of Kenneth Clarke on European integration are the views of a fanatic. The Conservative Party cannot be trusted, as I know very well, and as most of them do in this room. And as for the gaggle of Conservatives in the European Parliament, who are our principal opponents in the June the 4th election, most of them went native long ago, and they have been consistently disloyal to British interests while they've been there. Now, I'm billed as talking about our political heritage, and part of our political heritage is that politicians in Britain used to be regarded throughout the world as being unusually honest and personally incorruptible. But we now find in the 21st century that the Home Secretary who is in charge of the Metropolitan Police has been, how shall I put it, more than a little bit creative in what she chooses to charge on her parliamentary expenses. Now, she has, of course, been nothing like as creative as her husband. But there is more to it than that, and it's a very serious point. As Nigel Farage has pointed out, but not today, Westminster MPs have transferred so much of the power that they have to unelected bureaucrats in Brussels. At least 3/4 of all legislation in Westminster derived originally from Brussels, that they are in effect getting double the money for half the work. Britain has been an independent nation for over 500 years, which incidentally is something that does not apply to Italy or Germany. Belgium as a country, or another country, Belgium didn't even exist as a country until 1830. And part of our heritage as an independent nation state has been the ability to control our borders and to be able to choose who we permit to come and live here. Now, Nigel Farage made this point earlier, but I think it's worth restating. Now, what we have instead now is that because of the EU, because we belong to the EU, we have no control of our borders, and in consequence, mass and uncontrolled immigration. And the principal reason that we in Britain have experienced uncontrolled mass immigration and will continue to do so is simply because so long as we are members of the European Union, so long will 450 million people have the absolute right to come and live here. And citizens of European Union countries have the right not just to live here, but also an absolute right to work here. And this is what the good men and women working at the oil refinery in Lindsey in Lincolnshire found out for themselves very recently. British jobs for British workers may or may not be a desirable policy aim. But the point is, it cannot be delivered by any government until such time as we leave the EU. To end up, therefore, Britain's continuing membership of the European Union is not an obscure, esoteric matter of interest only to political heritage anarchists. Far from it. From the direct costs of up to £40 million per day, indirect costs of up to £160 million per day, to the compulsory closure of post offices, to rubbish collection, or I should say non-collection, caused by the EU's directives on landfill, to angling and garages, to the Working Time Directive, to the Common Agricultural Policy, to the ongoing environmental disaster that is the Common Fisheries Policy, as well as the European Human Rights Act, which means we cannot expel criminals and which we cannot repeal so long as we are in the EU. Even unto light bulbs, as Dr. Julia Reed said a little bit earlier, Britain's continued membership of the European Union impinges on every portion of our lives. It costs and costs and costs us again, and almost always in a way that is to the systematic disadvantage of our businesses, our country, and our people. And if anyone should doubt our resolve or our quiet confidence in ultimately being successful in leading the EU, I would simply restate this year, as I did last year, the three-word slogan of the American politician who is now the President of the United States. The three words, yes, we can. Thank you very much.